Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you've not subscribed to our channel, please do. Here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, right now we are reading through this collection, These Stories of Ray Bradbury. We are up to story number 62 of 100, which is The Town Where No One Got Off from 1958. The way these videos work is that I typically do a brief synopsis of the action of the story and then end the video with my sort of parting thoughts on what it all means, what it means to me, what it could mean to you, basically the things to be looking for as far as the themes and the inner meanings of these tales. So as for that synopsis, a salesman is on a cross-country train to LA. He's talking with another passenger. Sounds like the other man is a salesman as well. And he really mentions that, we ride these trains in our work and we pass all of these towns out on the prairie and in the mountains. And we never stop and nobody ever gets off. And I wonder what goes on in those towns. Are we missing something or what's the deal here? The other man says, nah, you'd be bored. Nothing happens in these towns. Nobody goes there who isn't already from there. But the first man says, you know what, I'm going to do it. I don't need to be in LA until next Monday. I'm going to get off at the next train, next stop, and see what happens. So he goes to the front of the train. He gets off at the next town, and he immediately sees basically an empty train station except for an old man sitting on the deck of the walkway in an old chair, and it looks like he's been there for decades, like he's never moved. And the man barely even acknowledges that our character has gotten off the train, but yet the man, he feels this sense that, he's been noted. His presence here has been noted. So the day goes on. He walks back and forth through the town. Not much is happening. He was right. It's pretty boring here. But he starts to realize that all the while as he's been making these stops and crisscrossing the town, the old man from the train station has been following him. And it's getting near daybreak, or near dusk. Sun's going down. He begins walking sort of out of town along the train tracks. And the man follows him and begins to speak. And he talks about this sort of inner rage that people have. And he says that, people think about killing people, but you don't. And you never get the chance. And you stuff it down deep inside and you don't tell anyone. But, everybody's thought of, speeding up and killing a pedestrian in a crosswalk and saying, I just didn't see you, I didn't brake in time, and things like that. And the first man, he begins to talk, and I can relate to that. I've wanted to kill my boss 100 times or whatever. But it's getting creepier, it's getting darker, they're getting farther out of town, and the first man puts his one arm on the main character's arm, and his other hand is stuffed in his pocket. It's clear that the old man has planned this. He's waited for a passenger with no connections, not expected, to get off their train sort of on a whim, and he won't be missed, and I can kill you and send you down the river and no one will notice. But it's then that our main character reveals that, I've been having similar thoughts for a long time. I thought I could get off a train in a town where no one knew me, where I wasn't expected, where no one would think to look. I could kill someone, get back on a train, never be seen again, and sort of get out this inner rage. It's just then sort of disturbing their moment of tension, and also I should note that he seems to have his hand in his pocket like he has a gun. An express train roars overhead on the trellis, blinding light for a moment, and then silence and darkness after it passes. The first man takes his hand out of his pocket. It's empty. There's no gun. It appears, and the two men sort of part ways, walking off in different directions in the darkness. So, interesting little tale. It's definitely sort of a twist ending. We've seen this before in Bradbury. I can't off the top of my head remember some story names, but I do know I've read other Bradbury tales where he sort of uses this motif where it appears that one character has got the better of another character, but then you realize the other character has had similar thoughts, and he's capable of just whatever evil the first character was. So it's basically that's going on here. But the whole thing has, I would say, a bit of a Hitchcockian feel, but also very much a Twilight Zone feel as well. It definitely seems like it'd be in either one of those sort of universes. And, in the end, I think there's some truth to this. I think people have inner rage, and, you want to kill your boss, you want to do this or that, and there's unspoken things, or maybe things you only say to your friends, but they're only said half seriously, but not really. And then on rarer occasions, you have sort of moments where it's like, yeah, I could do that. I could get away with that. And you stuff it down, and you don't pursue it because you're a good person, and you scare yourself with the thought that you could do that, the thought that you could even think of such a thing, of committing an atrocity. But it's there, and it's a type of thought that you have when you're alone, or maybe you're laying in bed trying to get to sleep and your mind's wandering. And, I've had these thoughts, or dreams actually, and it's like, yeah, this is scary. Don't want to think that. But it also, I think it speaks to another issue, which is, do you control your actions? Or are you really born this way as far as any sort of capacity for bad goes? We think of criminals, especially the people who commit the most heinous acts, in a variety of ways. Occasionally there's a serial killer, and we talk about them like, yeah, this person's pure evil. They had been born evil, something wrong with them. But we don't know that. It could have been something that came to them over time, the way they were mistreated, the world that they grew up in. But we all hope that we're in control of our actions, and but sometimes it's apparent that we're not, and that's why crimes of passion happen as well. And it's like, you look at somebody, it's like, how could you do that? How could you hurt that person? And again, because we're, generally speaking, good people, we have a hard time processing it, because we've never been sort of in that situation where maybe our backs are up against a wall, and we have built-in despair and other issues, and sort of in a moment of rage, bad things happen and accidents happen, and it's not intended. So I think it really does speak to that question of, do you control your actions? Are you really born away, or is it nature versus nurture? What's the whole thing? I think it's an interesting study. I think it's one for criminology classes and psychology and things like that. But we just brush it here a little bit here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. And then we move along quickly to our next story, All Summer in a Day from 1954. That will be up next. So be sure to subscribe and tune in, and I will see you again soon.